Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest for the afternoon, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our Jordanian journalist. Mr. Ramzy, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you, Ramzy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramzy, for your time this afternoon. And let me start straight away by asking you about the recent decision by the United States that has said it would not allow the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas to travel to New York next month for a United Nations gathering of world leaders, where several U.S. allies were also expected to recognize Palestine as a state. Firstly, Mr. Ramzy, what was the official rationale for denying entry to the Palestinian president for the United Nations meeting?
The rationale was not a legal rationale as such. It was based on the activity of the Palestinian Authority in convincing states to recognize Palestine, and also because the Palestinian Authority rejected American pressure on not going to the International Criminal Court. So by going to the International Criminal Court, America decided to penalize the Palestinian Authority by not issuing the visas and not allowing them to attend. By the way, NG, this is not the first time this happens. In history, Yasser Arafat was banned from attending the UNGA meeting in New York. The Americans refused to issue him a visa. But at the time, what the United Nations did is they actually moved the whole meeting to Geneva in order to allow Yasser Arafat to attend in person. There is history. This is not the first time this happens, but I'm not so sure this time the United Nations is willing to actually move the whole UNGA to Geneva in order to allow for President Mahmoud Abbas to actually address the UNGA in person.
Right. Now, Mr. Ramzy, this is, quite an unexpected decision. Do you think, what is your opinion with regards to the United States' obligations as the host country under the UN headquarters agreement?
Yes, absolutely. There is a UN headquarters agreement.
Yes.
And what is going on with this American administration is that they're really they treat these agreements and these commitments as if they were irrelevant. And this is what they're doing with the whole international law. If international law says what's going on in Gaza is genocide, and the United States says no, absolutely not. There is no starvation used in Gaza. There is actually no starvation in Gaza. We're seeing people die out of starvation. Yet the United States official position is that there is no starvation in Gaza, and obviously the starvation is not being used as a weapon by Israel, and it does not recognize any war crimes on the part of Israel. What America is doing is it's weakening the whole order of international law on every single front.
Exactly.
May it be on war crimes. The United Nations is much weaker today than it used to be. It's much weaker after the 7th of October. We've passed 2 years since the 7th of October, if you like. And at the end of the day, we are seeing a much weaker United Nations. We are seeing a much weaker international courts. We're seeing much weaker international law. And America is reneging on all of its agreements. It's an agreement between the United States of America and the United Nations in order for the United Nations to be in the United States, the headquarters to be in the United States, for the United States to host it. Reneging on it over the issue of Palestine-Israel is pretty much opening the door to reneging on that agreement on all fronts. So we are moving from a world order that needs to be fixed to a no order by diminishing the laws and by weakening all of these rules and regulations that have been used to manage this international world order, if you like.
Indeed. Now, Mr. Ramzy, what message, in your opinion, does this send, to the international community about the U.S.'s role in global diplomacy, and how do you see the response already of some of the members of the international community and leaders from different countries, specifically from Europe as well?
They are shocked because it's blackmail. To tell the authority, unless you actually withdraw from the International Criminal Court, and unless you stop asking people to recognize Palestine, you are not going to be issued visas to the United States. This is blackmail. This is outright blackmail. This is not politics. This is not international law. This is not legal. This is illegal. And what the United States is doing is that it is aligning itself and co-branding more and more with Israel, a country that is conducting a genocide and a country that has broken international law on so many fronts. And the United States is now looking more and more responsible for that, for all of these war crimes, on many fronts. And this is very clear to the international community, and it's a very big problem. It's a big problem for the United States of America. It's also a very big problem for the international community that actually wants to see law and order, a system that actually is able to manage relations between states.
Mr. Ramzy, has the United Nations formally responded to the U.S. decision to block Abbas's participation or entry into the country? And what, power do they have, if any, to prevent or to have this decision reversed?
Well, the United Nations is putting a lot of effort now trying to convince the Americans to actually withdraw their decision and to issue the visas for the Palestinian delegation to attend. So they're putting that effort there. There will be a lot of internal discussions within the United Nations and the major players at the United Nations to look at the possibility of actually finding a solution if the United States would not change its position. Such solutions could be either moving the meeting, which is a huge undertaking, by the way. This is not something easy, but it has been done before, as I said, with Yasser Arafat when America refused to allow him entry. But also, there is a possibility of having the Palestinians address the UNGA through video teleconferencing. So all of this is being discussed now. The big effort is on attempting to get the United States to actually change its mind and issue the visas based on the headquarters agreement.
Indeed. Now, Mr. Ramzy, how does this also impact, in your opinion, the United Nations' ability, to function to a certain degree independently and host, inclusive discussions, allowing other countries that maybe want to recognize the Palestinian state to do so?
Well, this is the biggest problem, MG. The problem is that the United Nations is dysfunctional unless international law and the rules and regulations, especially those that allow for engagement between different states, are in place. The minute that these are weak and they apply to some but not to others, the minute that rights are not equal between states, and Palestine, by the way, is a state, and is recognized as a state inside the United Nations, and it attends as a state. Maybe it's not a full state at full capacity, but it is a state, and therefore all of these laws and rules and regulations apply to it. Unless that is in place and that is functional, then the United Nations becomes meaningless. The United Nations becomes dysfunctional. The United Nations becomes of much lesser importance than what it is today. And the whole idea behind the United Nations is in order to have global peace.
Indeed.
Is in order for this world to be able to function in a manner that is civilized. So if the weaker the United Nations is, the weaker international law is, then we are really moving backwards towards the law of jungle. And this is what is not acceptable, and this is what is worrying a lot of people who are coming out and saying, what the heck is going on? including in Europe.
Yes.
France made a statement that was very strong, assailing the decision not to allow the Palestinians to speak before the UNGA. And France is a major ally of the United States of America. So America is pitting itself today against its own major allies, whether they are in Europe or at the international level, on behalf of Israel, a rogue state that is accused of war crimes, ongoing war crimes, including genocide and ethnic cleansing,
Right.
crimes against humanity.
Finally, Mr. Ramzy, how do you see this as another step in, hindering dialogue and de-escalation efforts in conflict zones in general, even, not just the current situation in the Gaza Strip?
Well, the minute that you open the door for what's going on in Gaza to go on and to continue going on, and this is basically what the United States has done in the past 2 years, then you are basically giving the green light for other states to do what Israel is doing today. And if the Palestinians, let's say, are of no importance to the United States of America, this could happen to another nation that is of importance to the United States of America. These kind of discrepancies are extremely dangerous if they are not based on equal rights in terms of humanitarian law or political rights in terms of freedom, the right to self-determination, and all of these basic concepts that ensure human rights at the global level.
Right. I'm going to have to leave it at that. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our Jordanian journalist and our guest for the afternoon. Thank you very much, sir, for your time and your insight and for joining us this afternoon on Arab Affairs.